Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. I'm Annick Darioly, Associate Professor at Roches Global Hospitality Education, and it's a great pleasure to be with you today for a discussion on soft skills needed for our changing world. And before I let the floor to our panelists, let's briefly describe what are soft skills. They're also known as human skills or interpersonal skills, and they are called upon when you manage your time, you communicate with others, or you confront a difficult situation for the first time. And research has shown that 85% of job success is based on our soft skills. And soft skills lead to more profitability and higher job satisfaction. But you will see it's more than that. Developing our soft skill isn't just about learning new approaches to a situation. It's also understanding the value of attributes you already have and how to use them in both your day-to-day life or your career. And with this pandemic and so increasingly remote-led world, soft skills are more important than ever. And we need to be self-aware, agile, flexible, and eager to take risks, just to give you some examples. And this development, graduate students from Les Roches are experiencing it every day. But an accent on soft skill is done weekly in our leadership classes. But who else than our student to talk about it? So today I'm really pleased to have with me two graduate students from Les Roches, Julia Berbara from our postgraduate diploma program, and Scott Davies from our MBA program. They will converse with Charles Bennett, a business success coach, on soft skills for the new world. So thank you very much for being present today. May I kindly ask each of you to introduce yourself before we start, please?
Well, I'll start. My name is Charles Bennett, as I said. I'm a business success coach, which means, in other words, I really work in mirroring the success of my clients for them to see their true potential and that they can prepare a plan for where they want to go tomorrow. So it's something I feel passionate about, especially with the experience I've had with working for Carroz for 12 years in luxury goods industry. And today now I work one-on-one with my professional clients, and also I work with companies and also business schools like Roches and Lyon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Berbara. I'm a current postgraduate student here at Roches, as you can see on the screen. I'm originally Brazilian. I lived in Rio up until I was 18 years old. And then I moved to the United States to pursue my bachelor's degree. I graduated in 2019, and I started here at Roches this year in March. I'm very passionate about traveling, about hospitality. Those were the main reasons why I chose to come here. I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Hello, my name's Scott. I'm from the UK. I studied hospitality management and graduated all the way back in 2008. Ever since then, I've been working in the hospitality industry, moving around various countries, various companies. And up until just recently, I was based out in Thailand in a sort of boutique hotel. And of course, now the opportunity to come and do some self-development, take the MBA course presented itself. So I'm doing the 1-year course at the Roches now, which I just embarked on a couple of months ago. So looking forward to the year ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you both, all of you. And I'm sure our audience is eager to know more about the topic of today and to ask questions. So you could do so. You can ask questions using the comment box, and we will have a dedicated time for that at the end. And now I will stay in the background and leaving the floor to our panelists. So Charles, the floor is yours. So he was afraid, he left. So waiting for him, Scott, Julia, can you tell us a bit more about your soft skills and how you can manage your well the failure you had in your life and to great success?
Yeah, I can talk about, maybe, would you like to go first, Scott?
Ladies first.
Okay, I can talk about a time when I failed and how I found success because of it. After I graduated college in the United States in 2019, I tried to find a job over there and I was very unsuccessful. I looked for about 7 months, ended up giving up after that and coming back home. And looking back now, I think the reason why I failed was that I kept a negative mindset, kind of going into all the interviews and the applications I had, already expecting not to get them. And deep down, I believe it was because the jobs I was applying to weren't really what I wanted. And going through that experience made me realize what I was really interested in, which was hospitality. And nowadays, being here at Roches and applying for jobs, I feel way more comfortable, confident. I feel like I developed a lot of interpersonal skills. I'm able to go into an interview better and understand what the other person is showing in terms of emotions, and also understand the emotions that I'm showing and how other people may perceive that. So yeah, I think that really turned into a success because it led me to develop my self-awareness in a way and understand what I really want and what the image I'm putting out in the world is.
Thank you, Scott. What about you?
I mean, in terms of failures, I mean, one of the things that perhaps we'll talk about later on is making use of your connections in this industry. And your connections can be anyone from your colleagues to your fellow students, people that you meet through the years, making use of those, which I have made use of over the years, but perhaps something that I've neglected and something that has been brought to my attention, let's say, from coming to the Roche, is the use now of social media and putting yourself out there on the stage in terms of LinkedIn, and really paying attention to that platform, and being able to connect with people using your sort of personal skills, not just adding them or sending a request, but sending a personal note, trying to get on the personal level with them, and not shying away from the possibility of connecting with someone that you might think is perhaps out of your reach. So I think that's an area that I'm looking forward to develop further and see some results in.
Oh, Charles, did I afraid you? Were you afraid of me?
No, never.
You don't want to take a risk?
Not at all. Not at all. I just got, so unfortunately I got cut off. I didn't hear what I missed, but you'll have to, what was the last thing? I got cut off automatically. So tell me, where are we at?
We were about, well, we discussed about how we can turn a failure to success, but they just started. So you can go with your own perception of it, and yeah.
Well, the bottom line for me, if you pardon me to share my part of my vision and story, was that when I was working at Cartier, I saw myself as not a success. I saw that I was working every day. I was sort of like a robot, and not feeling that even though I was successful in my sales, in my presentation, and in many respects living what many would have thought a dream for my Canadian friends, as you know, I'm from Canada, I wasn't happy within myself, and I felt kind of like not someone that had really advanced. It wasn't until the moment that I started, like, as I'm doing as a success coach and working with clients who want to be able to advance in their personal endeavors, I realized that I wasn't alone, that there were a lot of people out there who were seeking to advance and had dreams, but they weren't materializing because they didn't believe in themselves. And that's how I believe one can turn the negative into a positive by really realizing what really is indeed possible.
Yes, I think that kind of ties into what I shared just now when you were gone. I'll keep you in the loop. And basically, I was sharing about a time where I was applying to jobs and wasn't really being successful. And looking back, I realized that it was all because I wasn't really interested in those jobs that I was applying to. And it was all about finding what I really wanted to do and understanding what my passions were and what my interests were. And once I did that, it was kind of like the world opened and I had all these opportunities.
So basically the door became wide open because the fact, as you got to know yourself better, you started to realize that the path was more clear. And then suddenly maybe the opportunities came as well.
Exactly. I definitely helped with self-awareness and confidence and pushed away the negative mindset that I had in the past whenever I was looking for a job that I knew that really didn't fit me, but I thought that I had to be applying to, you know.
And yeah, and I think that's really common. Sometimes we all go after jobs that we think are right for us and not really careers that really enrich us and allow us to be our best self. And sometimes we think people like to tell you, oh, you'd be good at this and you'd be good at that, but we don't listen to the voice that's inside, that's speaking to us, that's saying, Charles, what is it you really want? And what will make you happy and what will make you shine?
I could agree to that scenario. I think I just dropped out for a second there, but I had a role for a very short period of time where I was on the road and I was sort of like a mystery shopper, let's say, to make it easy to understand. But something happened to me whilst I was on the job, and I had a medical issue, had a seizure. And I ended up having to take time off work and then eventually being let go from that job. But as a result of that, a few months later, I ended up getting a job, sort of like a dream job for me, which ended up landing me in a destination that I really wanted to be in and the type of job that I really wanted. And then reflecting back on that position that I had, I wasn't really happy with it. I had, it's all about experience and gaining these experiences as you go through your career journey, I think, and finding out what fits for you and what doesn't. What I realized was that I need a team around me. I need human interaction. I need to be with people on a daily basis. Whereas that previous role where I ended up being let go, it was yeah, you were by yourself. Every day a different scenario. You were never really able to develop proper human relationships with anyone. So yeah, I mean, I would just chime in there and agree with you that sometimes something that looks bad can turn out to be a positive.
Absolutely. And even I can't tell you how many times in my life, I'm almost embarrassed to say that I've been fired from positions, whether it was working in pharmaceuticals, selling medication on the phone, or whether it was being in telemarketing, or whether it was selling airtime for television for big companies. And I remember feeling like everybody would say, oh my God, bravo, you're doing so well, you're working for a great company. And I was thinking, but this is not my story. This is not who I am. And I felt people were happy for me. But the question was, I wasn't happy for myself. And I kept asking myself, well, why aren't I happy? I have the salary, I have the car, I have all these things. But internally, when I went home on my own, I realized that I hadn't succeeded because I wasn't fulfilling what made me happy.
And I think going off of that, what was hard for me choosing to come to hospitality, to move careers in a way, was just that first step, was just realizing what you wanted, but also being able to say that out loud, being able to understand and not being scared to voice that into the world and not really care in a way about the consequences.
Absolutely. And also in many respects, also what other people think. I think the biggest and most wonderful, enriching thing about maturing in life, whatever age you are, is to get to the point where what other people think about your choices don't affect where and what you want to do on a daily basis. The fact that you can just sort of slide it off and it doesn't have any influence on where you want to go. Because oftentimes when we do make choices, we often think, well, what will my auntie think? Or what will my partner think? Or when in the end, it's you that's living your life every day. And you're the one that has to be accountable to your choices, which means that if tomorrow you make a choice that's based on somebody else, you only have yourself to answer to. So in the end, it comes down to your choice. What will make you happy and what will be your long term? And even if you make a choice that doesn't work, at least it's your choice and you own it.
I really like that.
Well,
it's sometimes hard to reach that point, though, wouldn't you say, Charles? I mean, to make that decision and be brave to take a step away from perhaps a position that you have, a stable position. There might not be something else on the cards immediately for something that you do want to do. Maybe you get knocked back, you've applied to things and it hasn't come through. How would you navigate that sort of, especially in the initial stages of your career?
I think one of the most important things, Scott, to do is to make a plan. And the plan has to be written on paper where you say, in 3 months, I want to do this. In 6 months, I want to do that. And even if you deviate from 1 month to another, it has to be put on paper. What I realize with many of my clients when I work with them who are in leadership positions, when they want to make a transition, the only way that that transition can come to fruition is if they write it down and make a commitment to themselves. Because it's too easy to say, oh, I think I'll try that. And then you say you'll do it in 6 months, and 6 months pass, and then a year pass, and then 2 years, and you realize it's never come down because you never wrote it down. It's almost like secretly making a promise to yourself and making sure that you take the steps, which means that for many people, when they want to make a change, they're often scared. They're often fearful of failure, which is a normal position. But the reality, the moment you write it down and give yourself the time and the place to get there, it can come to fruition. But you have to make a promise to yourself that you will put it on paper, make a date, meaning on May 6th, on May 21st, and you put it down. And it, for some reason, I noticed with my clients and even myself, when you put it down on paper, you feel like it's something almost legal, almost a type of benediction, which says, you know what, I have to do this. I owe it to myself to follow this. And even if you're fearful of what the repercussions are, the moment you see it on paper, you feel, voila, it has to be done.
Also, when you say it to someone else, right? I would say, when you voice it out to someone else, what you've been thinking about this whole time, once it's out there in the world, not only inside your head.
Absolutely. When you verbalize it to the world, for some reason, there's something innate within us that feels we have to do it. We have to. If you're a person that says, you know what, I hate my job, and somebody says, well, why don't you change? Suddenly you feel, oh, they're right. I do have to do something about this, that I can't stay with my feet glued to the ground, but that I have to step it up. And I've got to match the words, because honestly, it's normal that sometimes we have situations in our life where we're not happy about, but the question is, what are we doing today to change it? And that's why when I ask my clients, what are you doing today to change the situation you're in? Suddenly they realize that they have a responsibility to make that change, whether it's in 6 months, whether it's in 2 years, whatever the choice is, they have to make a commitment to make the change with a proper timeline so that they can achieve their success.
Just thinking about with regards to finding then that job, that dream job that you think of, securing, an interview can sometimes be a challenge, or I've experienced that. Sometimes you send out 20, 30 applications, and maybe only one of them come back, and it's sorry, thank you very much for your time, but unfortunately this time you've been unsuccessful. It's one of my pet peeves of the modern day that we live in. You just sometimes don't even hear back, and that's where I go back to, I think, whilst you were just offline for a split second there, Charles, I was talking about how making use of your connections, and through my career, it's often been someone that I've known who's helped put me in the direction of an interview. That connection with someone helps tremendously, and sometimes it's someone you least expect as well. Some of the people that, because I graduated from Cleon, some of the friends that have helped me get an interview, they weren't necessarily my immediate circle of friends at school. I just sort of knew them by name, by face, but then we've ended up in the same location, or we've connected outside. And that's been one of the best ways that I've managed to achieve interviews. But sometimes it feels hopeless when you're just going online and sending an application through the internet. It can be a challenge.
Well, Scott, the reality is that today we live in a world that's not very easy, that in the sense that we have to do a little bit more. And the fact is, this is why the theme of soft skills for the new world is that right now, especially post-pandemic, we're realizing, and I've realized, that many of us are sort of sometimes crippled or frozen in terms of trying to find creative ways of getting in touch or connecting with decision makers. And the fact is, many people have believed that if I just send an invitation on LinkedIn, or if I just send an email, well, I've done my work. It doesn't, that's when the work just begins. You have to go a little bit further. It actually means making a call. It may actually, like actually using the phone and leaving a voicemail to someone that could potentially remember your voice, or making a call to action, bringing something to the table, saying, you know what, I know I read the article about you in the Guardian yesterday, and I want to congratulate you on the successful new role that you got. I would love to have a discussion with you when you have a moment. It's trying to find a bit of a teaser so that the person that you're trying to reach out to also feels it's win-win for them. Too often, I think it can be sometimes one-sided, where we believe, well, I sent them an email, I sent 20 CVs, but that's not really enough in today's world. The soft skills is really about making a connection. It's about finding human ways of making people remember us. It's about finding ways of making people understand that we're bringing something of value to them, so that when they choose to perhaps meet with us, we have our script already ready, which is where I speak about the 30-second elevator pitch, which is something that a lot of my students have benefited from, which means that if you're stuck with someone who will meet you, what are you going to say in 30 seconds to make them want to speak to you more or meet with you a second time? It's really going a little bit deeper. And hence, I think that that's where the real work begins. It's really becoming a little bit more personalized, a little bit more human, and using something of yourself that really makes you show your USP, your unique selling point, so that that person wants to meet with you again, and in turn, close the deal for a successful role.
Brilliant. Actually, sort of going a bit not entirely off topic, but that's useful for when you're trying to make a connection. But I'll just talk about one scenario where I was at one of my jobs out in Thailand, and after work I decided to go down to the beach and clean up, which is a very trendy thing to do now. You go and pick up all of the plastic and rubbish that washes up on the shores. So I sort of saw it as a bit of fitness as well, just going up and down and getting a bit of a suntan as well. And I ended up bumping into a family that were walking down the beach with their children, and we ended up engaging in conversation. And it turned out that the lady was a hotel owner, and the husband was a designer, a hotel designer. He designed banyan tree hotels, but he was also obviously designing for her as well. And we ended up striking a conversation, and they were looking for a new hotel manager, GM. So in that moment, you know, I've got my business card on me, can throw my name into the hat. And we ended up then conversing afterwards. Some opportunities came up, but it was from that little moment, just going down onto the beach and connecting with someone unknowingly. But these opportunities can be all around you, right? They're not necessarily just through LinkedIn or through a recruitment platform.
Absolutely. I mean, that was Scott, an organic moment. And the great thing was you had your business card, you probably had your 30-second, or maybe it was longer, mindset of what you were going to tell this person because you already knew the job well. And I think when the person meets you in that context, which was so organic, they're even more susceptible to wanting to hear what your story is, or where you come from, or what you're doing, or what your future goals are. And that connecting point can make all the difference. And whether you close the deal in that moment or not, it's a great moment for you to realize, hey, this is where I want to go. And potentially I'm getting closer and closer to getting what I really want in terms of my career role that will make me happy.
If I may interrupt, we do have some questions on how improving the soft skills or improving our emotional intelligence in education or in general. So for instance, Isma is interested in to know how students can train the human emotional intelligence for the workforce, if I'm getting right. As she mentioned, it's really a huge skills. So if I just may in terms of the educational aspect of it, so thank you, Isma, for that question. You might say that we cannot really learn or train soft skills or emotional intelligence in university, but what we do here with, for instance, the PGD and our MBA students, it's all about, as we discussed at the beginning of the session, all about self-awareness. If you are clear on what is emotional intelligence, we have self-awareness, understanding our own emotion, expressing our emotion, and understanding others' emotion and controlling our emotion. Same as well on the social part of it, how to start a conversation. And we know that for some introvert is big stuff to start a conversation. You always avoid it. So how to train these? What we do, we start with a self-awareness. Julia and Scott can back up on that. They do a self-report, a self-assessment on emotional intelligence to know exactly where they are in terms of their EQ and also social intelligence. And they reflect on how they get from that. So is it from their personality, they value their sharing, from their education or their professional experience? And then we do some role play in classroom, and they also take time to observe themselves outside of class, if you want. So it's really a long journey that we can do in a short time during the semester. But what I can tell you for sure is we can learn and we can train either emotional intelligence or in general soft skill in classroom, in doing role play, self-reflection, assignment, and so on. So I don't know if Julia or Scott, you want to add something on that?
I do actually. Just a little thing that I've noticed through our classes is just the amount things that go into emotional intelligence. It's not just, are you emotionally intelligent? It's more like, can you understand your emotions? Can you understand other people's emotions? And it's not usually one person has all of those aspects. It's usually, I maybe can understand other people's emotions, but I can't really control mine or interpret mine. So yeah, so it's been really interesting to learn about that and learn about ourselves.
Yes, and I would also say it's one of the hardest things you can do is look at yourself and see and try and think how you're perceived by others and how your actions have an effect on other people. It's definitely one of the most challenging things. So yeah, yes, in our classes we have all these various questionnaires that you can do, and you try and put yourself in the right situation and imagine how you would deal with the situation at work. But it does help you to reflect and see what kind of a person you are, and especially what kind of a person you are with your team in the workplace as well. But I think it's one of those things that you develop over time, like a fine wine, right? You have these innate sort of skills or traits, but I think it is something that you can grow and develop, and as you get older, they might change slightly. And that's actually one of the things we did do in class was I think Dr. Darioly was showing one of the test results that she'd done, but she'd done them about 5-6 years ago, and now if she was to do it now, it would be totally different. So it's something you develop with experience of working with other people. And yeah, I think in certain companies they do provide trainings for basic, simple trainings on how to service, how to smile, how to behave and carry yourself. So on that level, and team building exercises, so that there are those things that take place in the workplace. But I'm not sure if Charles, because this is your field, if there are certain things that people can learn on the outside world.
I think in order to really, I think soft skills are, it's like exercising a muscle. You have to do it all the time. You have to find ways of connecting to people on a regular basis. Networking, for example, is what I suggest to my students all the time, where it's something you have to do every day. It has to become a part of your inner self, meaning that who can you meet that will be a new person today that will bring you closer to your personal goal. It's not always easy to be able to talk to people we don't know, but you have to find ways of finding the icebreaker, meaning an open question. It means, oh, or making it connecting to someone you see at Starbucks, even, you see the same person every day. Find ways of becoming a little bit more organic in your speech, and slowly it becomes a little bit easier. Nobody's saying it's a one-stop thing where you can become, comfortable in talking to people or comfortable in connecting, but it's something that has to be a part of your mantra, where if you do it every day, it becomes easier and easier.
Well, we have, I'm just looking at the question. Philip is asking if those soft skills can be, has differences in terms of culture, in terms of countries. How, as you have so much experience with different cultures, do you notice differences? Would you see a common ground between all those countries and culture?
Bottom line, there's no doubt that if selling oneself would be considered very different from the US to if I was going in China. So there's no doubt that in some ways you do have to adapt to the place you're in. But the bottom line is that I think that when you get to know yourself and you get to present what your strengths are, it can cross all cultures. It's about being able to share with confidence and being able to say, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I'm bringing to the table, the person who you're presenting to will understand no matter what the culture is. I think that yes, there's levels of adaptation from one country to another, which comes into the codes. But at the same time, I truly believe that once you know what you're capable of, it shouldn't be important about where that country is. It's about who you are and what you're bringing to the table.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it's true. Well, if I know students will agree with me. I'm really academic on that side, but research really showed that there are some soft skills that there are globally seen as effective in the entire world, and as Charles, you mentioned, we really need to adapt. We adapt our soft skills and our leadership style as well. So the another question we have is, if I understand well the question, it's how about lost in translation via UA to Asia? So EU, sorry, not UA, EU to Asia. So from Peter, would you have a comment on these?
Maybe Scott, since you've worked in Thailand, did you notice anything?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. So is it saying that I have challenges in communicating, or my soft skills, the way I am? I think if we're talking about communication, then of course it helps to make an effort in your language. But we are in an industry where English is used predominantly, but I think communicating certain messages, I think they do have to be done differently from European countries to Asian countries. I think the way you deliver a message might have to be done in a softer way in Asia, whereas if you're working in London or Frankfurt, you can be a little bit more direct and stern to the point to get something achieved. But in Asia, you do have to be a little bit more conscious of your tone and the way you hold yourself and get your message across to your team. It takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more patience, I would say, at least from my experience out in Thailand. They have to connect with you on an emotional level, whereas in London, you can be a little bit more robotic and uniform in terms of being task orientated. And that's what I would say.
And I would, if I could add to that, I think, because I'm Canadian, and I know when I moved to France, I had to also change my approach in how I communicated my strengths and adapted to French culture, because you cannot come to France and say, I'm the best, I can do the best for you, I'm going to do everything. It has to be sort of, I learned I had to mute it down. That even if I thought I could do something, I had to kind of communicate it in a way that was more subtle, meaning more, instead of I can do the best job, I said, I think I could do this really well here. And yet you're communicating the same thing, but you have to sort of fine tune the message. And I think that when anybody goes to any culture, whatever they do, they can communicate what they need to, but just adapt it a bit to the context of where they're at. And I think when you learn that, which takes a little bit of time and really observing and doing a lot of listening, I think you can be successful in being able to make sure you get your message across.
In line with what you just said, Anastasia is asking a question on what are the most important soft skills professionals need to develop in a post-pandemic era. So especially maybe in the hospitality industry, but the soft skills are not only viewed as a hospitality oriented, it's all over the fields. So I don't know if you have an idea on that.
I believe, and this may sound really one-sided, but I think one of the most important things I've seen is the ability to know how to network. Be able to create your own network as well, which means you may go to a country and know no one, but you can create your own tribe by really doing the research of the people that you believe are the people that can potentially be able to assist you in your long-term goal, whatever that might be. And it may be, if you go to an event, if you go to a party, to really sort of research and know where you want to go. And I believe that for anyone, wherever that be, if you're in hospitality, if it's luxury goods, whatever it may be, it's just important to understand what your endpoint is and to be able to make a plan of saying, okay, I need to network, I have to meet this person, what do I need to do? And that, I believe, is the starting point in getting you to the goal where you want to be tomorrow.
One thing I can add as well for Anastasia, not only for her, but this pandemic really, I think it's not a good thing, okay? But it was one of the good side of it is that it developed really our soft skills and our resilience. We are all able now to adapt, to be more flexible. We are probably more savvy, tech savvy, I would say, and even though that it's not fully a soft skills, but the flexibility and the adaptability we were able all to develop during this pandemic, it's probably the positive aspect of it, and definitely it's what the organization are looking for.
I think, I don't know if this is correct, Dr. Darioly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say the pandemic also made us, it helped us increase our interpersonal skills in a way. We saw everyone was going through the same hard time at the same time. It wasn't more that thing where like, oh, this person isn't doing as well, but I am. I don't know if that can be something that's good to develop in the workplace, but it's definitely something I noticed with the pandemic. I think it brought everyone closer together as human beings.
Yeah, I think I completely agree, and we learn really, as you said, the interpersonal relationship and being fully active listener, because we all face a connectivity issue. We all face these aspects in our personal and professional life. So we need really to focus on how shall we be effective in listening and developing our listening skills as well.
And I wanted to add also just keeping that human element aside, because I think often, that's something that I think we learned through this pandemic, the fact that we became more human, we became more empathetic. And by finding that level of empathy from one person to another, I think it allows us to connect in ways that we never have before.
Yeah, sorry, I've dropped out a few times, but I would just chime in there and agree with you there, Charles, or everyone else perhaps on the empathy side. I think that's something that's always been present in hospitality. It'd be very difficult to have a job in the industry if you didn't have some level of empathy, because you're dealing with guests and with your team on a daily basis, where you have to take into consideration all factors. And I remember right in the midst of the pandemic, people couldn't travel, and we immediately thought that we were going to be getting a lot of cancellations, but it was actually funny that the reverse happened to us. For a couple of months, people were booking for month-long periods because they wanted to get away, but they still had that fear factor, and they still wanted someone to listen to them and someone to talk to, and having that personal relationship, also having to manage with your team as well, and who had that fear factor as well, being put in the front lines. So there's a whole range of people's emotions and fears that you've got to manage and listen to. in that moment. But as you said, it brings everyone closer together. We're all in it together, and I think definitely with everything moving to a digital sort of world post-pandemic, it's going to be, as you said, the human skills. The empathy is one of the main ones that will stand strong, that machines can't do.
Yeah, well, we talk a lot about the employee side and how to develop our network. But if we look at the employer side, Philippe has a really interesting question on how can we, as an employer, create an environment where soft skills have a more natural place. So.
I would add that I believe employers need to create an environment that allows a fluidity of exchanges that are less robotic. I've seen examples of people that work within certain organizations and large organizations where the director's door was always closed, or where the communication was always done only by email instead of the employer saying, you know what, I'm going to do a one-on-one with you and let's have a discussion and have a coffee, next week. Of course, it's not always easy under the circumstances we've been living over the past year, but there has to be a greater level of encouragement of the employers to engage their teams, to have healthy dialogue about what their future goals are, where they're at in the day-to-day work, and if there are ways that they can be assisted to do better in their day-to-day operations. And I believe even some of the largest organizations, those are limitations that don't allow people to keep their loyalty. And I think if employers invested more in this type of dialogue that was more human instead of just an email or whatever, or even acknowledging someone's success. I find that when somebody's done something really well, employers sometimes miss that opportunity. They miss giving acknowledgement and saying, well, John, you did really well with that deal. Bravo, congratulations. And when you create that synergy within an organization, that can make all the difference in terms of the environment, in terms of the loyalty, in terms of people's engagement of wanting to keep doing well within the group. And it makes people within the group want to share their ideas. So it creates a more positive environment.
Yes, I would just I would agree with that point, Charles. About it's very important to acknowledge people, not just when they've got faults and when they've had their failures, but also to point out when they've had their successes. It's one of the most important things in terms of gaining that connection with your team and gaining that connection with employees. Reinforcing that it's not just about the reward of having a benefit for performing well, but it's the acknowledgement, which, as you said, very often gets missed because of our day-to-day schedules. Sometimes it can be quite heavy. You can put that to the side sometimes as not one of your top priorities, but it's very important to acknowledge when someone's doing something the right way.
Absolutely. And it gives your teams fuel. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to we all agree with what has been said, and I need to be a bit to introduce a debate on it, as we have a great question from Steve, and it's the question. Well, I will read his question. How is the new digital workplace impacting the ability to use soft skills, since there are less small talk, pressure to go straight to the point with the business topic, as we are back to back with other digital meetings? And well, I think we are talking about soft skills taking time to be to add the human aspect on these post-pandemic era, but it's true. We all facing meetings after meetings and pressure, and we might not have time every day to talk to all of our employees remotely. So I don't know, Charles, if you have any suggestion, or how do you see this aspect, the digital aspect of the development of our soft skills?
I think in the long term, there's no doubt that digitalization is a huge part and will continue to be a huge part. But I think at some point we need to invest in the human element in a whole measure, so that we don't lose the connection, so that we can stay realizing that this is a valued part of our business, but at the same time, we need to do, whether it's events, whether we need to do a moment where everybody sort of puts their phones away and actually connects, because I think that it's such a crutch that that's all we do, but we don't think about the fact that the human aspect is what people are craving for so much more. So imagine if we just had a moment where, okay, no phones right now, we're going to be going to, we're going to have a 1 hour moment of brainstorming, and everybody just exchanges. How different the energy would be, how people will become with a different level of engagement and excitement, and they'll start to use a different part of their brain, and they'll start to come up with different ideas. And I believe that we can still do both, but we need to make sure we keep the human element in the equation.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I think you just mentioned it, Charles, how the human brain is going to end up figuring out a way to use soft skills. Since it's such a new thing, I think in the future we might end up seeing how well we've adapted and how well we've developed soft skills that are specific to the digital workplace, if that's possible.
Yeah, it's true. If we look, we all have virtual meetings, and I know Peter is asking the question how to decode those virtual meetings. So first, put your camera like this. We have at least the understanding of your nonverbal behavior. Okay, it's not the full body, but we can see your face. We can try to understand if what we are saying is clear or not, and so on. So it's not fully different than a face-to-face meeting, and sometimes it's even better. We have almost everyone on the screen instead of looking back on a table, and if you forgot your glasses, you cannot see the expression of the person at the back of the table. So it's really the camera play a big role in these digital world. So and understanding others' nonverbal behavior or body language.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would also just further that by saying that, or as we've been discussing internally at La Roche, how everything is moving to a digital world, but now this makes our soft skills all the more important, and having that human interaction, as you were talking about as well. I mean, that's quite often why people go away on holidays, to have experiences, to meet people and have these interactions as well. So you can't completely strip it away. I mean, with the digitalization, it's a tool to enrich the experiences as well. And people want to have a little bit of distance at the moment, but I think once everything starts to open up again, people are craving to get out there and be with each other again. I mean, we saw this in the UK just not long ago, where the lockdown was taken away and everyone flooded back to all the restaurants and bars, and as soon as flights are back open again, then the hotels will have the same benefit of everyone flooding back to be together again. I think with social media and having tools like what we have right now, it's actually brought us closer and we've connected more. But there comes a point where you need to go and see someone in the flesh. So I think there's a limit to it as well.
I agree.
Yes, so I think, well, there is no more question. We will close. I just want to add a bit more on the how our education can really develop soft skills. I say a bit a few minutes ago when I was talking about self-awareness and EQ, but soft skill is not all about emotional intelligence. So it's also how to give a public speech or to be active listener, or to understand other culture and respect of their culture. And what we try really to develop in those leadership courses or self-development courses or personal development courses is really developing the self-awareness to reflect and the willingness to learn from it. So it's really it's this process of reflection that makes the student or any people more self-aware and that develop their soft skills. And I'm really stay very confident that this is how our education prepare individuals for that or these new words. So I would like again to thank you, all of you, for your insight. And Charles, if you, before we close, if you want to add something, the floor is yours.
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, it's a pleasure to exchange with you all on this medium, but also to say that all of you are successes already, and that you should never forget that all of your past experiences have led you to the place you are today, and that will bring you to the success you want to be more.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our passionate audience for all their questions. It was really great questions and really help us to make a great conversation. And thank you to Charles, Julia, Scott for sharing your thoughts and experience. So if you want to keep talking about it, or we have a YouTube page, which is Les Roches MBA Masterclass International Leadership on soft skills. There we talk more on how the soft skills are global, and we make distinction between the different soft skills across the world. If you want to know more about it, I recommend you have a look on it. And thank you again, and to all of you, and enjoy the rest of your day or your night, depending where you are in the world. And I hope that our world will meet again.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here for this talk, and I had a great time. I want to thank everyone again. And yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me too. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Charles. And I will definitely be connecting with you after this, and stay in touch.
With pleasure, with pleasure. Thank you all. Wishing you all the best.
Bye, everyone.